since we're getting close to the election, we're just less than a month away. I want to say something about Prop 8. Now, Prop 8 is this Protect Marriage Act in California. So this is local politics in a sense, but as goes California, so goes the rest of the country. And if Prop 8 does not pass, then this bodes ill for the rest of the country in terms of the protection of marriage, and bodes ill for the rest of the country in general if marriage is not protected. The Protection of Marriage Act, Proposition 8, this is when the people get to vote, direct democracy. Generally, I think it's not a good idea because it presumes the people know what's best, and that's rarely the case. And the reason I say that is not that they don't know what's best for them or what they like. It's kind of like the guy who says, I don't know much about art, but I know what I like. But those are often the wrong kinds of reasons to vote on something that has ramifications for the broader public good. Maybe we know what we like, but we don't always know what's supportive of the common good, what's best. And we're also very vulnerable to manipulation. And this is evident every time election season rolls around. You can see it on the advertisements. Now, I don't watch TV by and large, certainly not network TV. I don't see those kinds of ads characteristically, but we still get our things in the mail, and some of that stuff is grotesque. But the reason they put these things out, these grotesque appeals to voters that have little to do with the issue at hand, is because people are swayed by that. And when it comes to Prop 8, I think there's a similar problem. Prop 8 is an attempt to reverse what judges did in California a couple of months ago, and what I understand just happened in the state of Connecticut, in which they said the state constitution requires that same-sex couples get the same treatment with regards to the marriage laws as heterosexual couples. Now, it does strike me as a little bit odd that both state constitutions were in play for a long time. The state of Connecticut, that was one of the original 13, right? So they go all the way back to the beginning, and no one saw this obvious meaning of that Constitution. And even in liberal California, we didn't see this until recently, that this is what the Constitution demands. So this is what you get when you get a living Constitution. The thing is changing, or the meanings change as time changes. I've said before, the only thing living about the living Constitution approach to lawmaking is the imagination of the lawmakers, or actually I should say the imagination of the judges in this particular case. In any event, the response to the judge's action a few months ago declaring that it was unconstitutional to deny marriage to same-sex couples was to pass a constitutional amendment that identified marriage specifically as being an institution between a man and a woman, and therefore a marriage license could not be given out to same-sex couples. Now, this same issue was addressed a number of years ago in the initiative process here, where the people vote directly, and it passed with an overwhelming majority, but it wasn't a constitutional amendment. So since it was statute by the people, then the judges could overrule it. Now this is a constitutional amendment. Now things have changed, though, in the state of California and around the country, and for a while this didn't look like it was going to pass. Now things look better. So those who are in favor of this proposition have reason to hope. I want to point out something, though, that some people have missed, and I was a bit surprised to see on the Prop 8 literature, and that caused me to rethink something I've said in the past, and actually now to think better of what I said before. So there's a sense in which I guess I'm saying I was wrong. Well, I wasn't completely wrong, but I was missing something that I now want to take into consideration when I adjust my point about same-sex marriages and things like domestic partnerships. Now, in the past, I have been against domestic partnerships. And the reason I have been against them is because, in my view, I wanted not to save a word, an 8-letter word like marriage. I wanted to save an institution. Now, if it turns out, because I think this institution, marriage, is a cornerstone to society, and there is a reason why the state should be involved in regulating and protecting this particular kind of relationship, that is because this relationship, long-term monogamous, committed heterosexual unions as a rule and as a group and by nature, and I would say by design, produce the next generation. And because that is unique about this kind of personal relationship, then the government has an interest in regulating it, restricting it, and protecting it. All other relationships, by and large, they don't care about. Do what you want. There's no reason for them to step in. Now, since I was interested in protecting that institution, I didn't want the institution given away under any name, under marriage, with same-sex marriage, or given away de facto for all intents and purposes under a different name, domestic partnerships. And so it seemed to me kind of a Pyrrhic victory, that is a costly victory, if we are able to save the name marriage for heterosexual couples, but turn out to give away the institution, that is all the rights and privileges that befall heterosexual couples in that kind of union, to same-sex couples. So it turns out then the only distinction between the two relationships is a word, marriage versus domestic partnerships. And it seems to me when it gets to that point, we've lost the battle. And then I discovered something unusual here in the state in California, which I didn't know before, but I saw it on the Yes on 8 Protect Marriage promotional material. And that was that apparently in the state of California, according to Family Code, I think that symbol means paragraph. It's that little circle with funny lines coming off the top and bottom of it. That paragraph? That's legalese. Family Code, we'll call it paragraph 297.5, makes it very clear under California law that same-sex couples, quote, shall have the same rights, protections, and benefits, close quote, as heterosexual couples. I realize that in one sense, with regards to the law, in the state of California at least, we've already lost. On my other way of thinking, we have already given everything up. There is no difference now, as far as the law is concerned, in the state of California, between same-sex unions under domestic partnerships and heterosexual unions under marriage laws. It's exactly the same. There's nothing different except for the word. Marriage. Marriage applies, or marriage licenses apply to heterosexual couples, whereas domestic partnership, what would you call them, agreements, contracts, arrangements apply to same-sex couples. That's the difference. It's what's in a name. As Shakespeare famously said, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. However, I'm rethinking my view a little bit because it occurred to me last week that maybe there is something in a name after all.